Good evening, everyone. We, the Team Firebird, are here to introduce innovation. An innovation that will change the lives of millions of people and add value to their life. It is intended to introduce iChart. Visual impairment is a simple reduction in vision that cannot be withstand sunlight. Visually impaired people face lots of challenges in environmental, social, and technological areas in their everyday life. Each has raised issues in their safety, lacking opportunities to improve their skills, career, education, lack of flexibilities in adapting to new environment, and getting discriminated by the society. 285 million people are visually impaired all over the world. 90% of them are living in developing countries like India, Africa, and China. 5 to 10 times, people in developing countries are more likely to go blind than people in highly industrialized countries. According to CNIB 2012 research, every 5 minutes, one person among us in the world goes blind. Every 5 seconds, one child among us in the world goes blind. Predictions are that by 2020, only the blind population will increase up to 75 million. Our innovation, iChart, a device that helps the visually impaired to perform activities without any barriers. Simply, it makes them self-reliant, independent, and empowers them. Now, my teammates will show the live demonstration of the basic features of our device. This is the product that one will make you aware. I hope you didn't hear like you did. When it identifies a stair, identify a new person, it practically gives narration to the user saying a stair in front, and it will actually say a step, a step, a step. This is from the voice input, give voice narration, and give unique vibration patterns. In my case, I have personalized the vibration to dot dot dot, which identifies a stair pattern. If it identifies the unique chair, it will say it's a chair, or I can teach the iChart to give you only vibrations, if it did that. Another unique pattern to the chair or any object that in your working environment or in your home. Basically, Isho will explain more about the 4 features. If you really want to check this out, you can come and after the whole event, you can come and ask more questions about the hardware. For now, we are pending and we can't talk about the back-end solutions, but we can give you basic understanding of how the hardware works for the moment. Moving on with the overview of how our device works. Our device is connected to a Windows phone or Windows tablet PC through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or USB cables for data transfer. In case if the device doesn't contain required information, it will contain the cloud. So it will connected to the cloud. As you can see, device consists of two subsystems and one main system. Subsystem 1, it controls the navigational part. Subsystem 2, it controls the object recognition part. And both of these systems are controlled by the main system. And all the data transfer will take place through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and XP. System consists of two types of devices: embedded devices, which is going to embedded OS, and extended devices, which is going to Windows OS. iTerm framework is built through Microsoft platforms such as Narrator, OCR, Translator, speech recognition. Once the task is being completed, it will notify the user through vibrator or speakers. In case the master database doesn't contain required information for a task, it will connect to the cloud and it will get the required information and then proceed with the task. iTerm has the capability of performing tasks like reading. When user gives the command say read, through the RGB sensor, it will capture the image of the group or the paper, then it will send to the OCR framework, then it will read to the user. When it comes to navigation, we are using map and GPS technologies. So it helps the user to identify existing location as well as the location you want to reach, and it gives navigational instructions, and by giving instructions, it detects the obstacles that are around the user. When it comes to object recognition, once the obstacle has been detected, it will send it to the framework to identify what type of object is in front of the user, it's a chair or a table. Once it is recognized, it will notify the user. And if it's a person, it will capture the image of the person and send it to the framework. As if the person is already saved in the database, it will notify the user, say your friend Aman is in front of you. If not, the person in front of you is unknown. And also we have additional features like reminder, translator, documentation, currency detector. How many of you all know? Currently, the visually impaired are not allowed to open up their own bank account since they have difficulties with recognizing currencies. So this option will be a good solution for the problem faced by them currently. And also we have color detector. So far, one of our major limitations is the battery life. Standard battery life is 4 hours. So in future, currently we are working on improving the battery life of our device. In future, we are planning to add more features like advanced image recognition, so visual impact can detect the facial recognition of the person who's in front of you. Calls and messaging facility, social integrations where they can get instant updates on the people whoever they are meeting, and you can serve it. So, why are we different? When you look at the industrial market, there are products which have been already introduced to assist visual impact. But those products are more like single feature, specialized for one task. It can be reading or navigation. But iCharm has the capability of performing many tasks. Simply, it's an all-in-one solution to the visual impact. So hereafter, the visual impact will not have very many devices to perform many tasks. One device, many tasks. We target complete blindness, color blindness, and low vision from both developed and developing countries. And also the elderly population, since they have difficulties with reading and remembering people. When it comes to the success of the product, price plays a crucial role. So since we are targeting developed countries as well as developing countries, we are planning to introduce two types of vouchers. One is iCharm Silver, which is priced at $399, which has the basic navigational features. And another one is iCharm Gold, which is priced at $899. It contains navigational features, reading, face recognition, and object recognition. Now, we will look at a video on the problems faced by visual impact in their day-to-day life.
දැන් මම විනාඩි 5කට කඩේ මට නෙමෙයි එනකොට තියෙන්නේ. මොකද වෙන්නේ? වාහනක ඉනාල ඒකට ගන්නවා. හිතන්නේ. මේ ඒකට දැන් ඇයි තමයි වල කව වෙනවා කියලා අර කාමරා දාලා ඉනා ඒවගේ ඇట్ලා අතවල තියෙනවා විශේෂම දැන් අපිට අනාගතේ ඉන්න ජීවමාන දෙයක් ඒ තරගයන්ට අනුකම්පාවට වඩා ජීවිතය දෙන්නේ නේද? දැනට ගොඩක් ප්‍රශ්න මතකලා තියෙනවා. කොච්චර පිළිගන්නවා කියනවා කොච්චර බලනවා අපිට අවශ්‍ය තැන තමයි ඉවිතන ලැබිය යුතු තැන පිළිගන්නවා දෙන්නේ. ඒක ලොකුම බාධාවක්.
This is the impact we can create. iCharm, which changes the lifestyle of the visual impact from dependent to independent. It helps them to gain more opportunities, improving their skills, education, as well as career pathway. Gives them more freedom. Hereafter, they do not have to depend on the person. they are self-reliant and help them to, they can be more flexible towards adapting to a new environment. Since our device keep on tracking the changes in the environment and notify the user. And even the blind can feel and enjoy the world like us. Our device, Aisha, will be a definite life transformer for the visual impact. Thank you.
Yeah, we have special introduction.
Good evening, guys. Welcome to our new venue. See so many faces, but I'm happy to see the front rows empty. So next time onwards, guys, start filling from this end. So let the back seats stay as it is. So guys, thanks for the presentation. In case if you have missed the big announcements, they actually bagged the Samsung Digital Native Award at the Imagine Cup World Final. So give them a big round of applause. First time team from Sri Lanka won an international award at the Imagine Cup. So that's a big deal. And all the best. So for your future endeavors and the product that you are, the company and the grant program that you are planned and synthesized. So with that, so this is the second year we are hosting for this Microsoft financial year. And where are our new student ambassadors? We missed a few of them at the last meeting. Hoping I can see a number of faces. There are a lot of activities planned for the coming months. A lot to do on Windows Phone, a lot to do on Windows 8, and a lot of activities within your universities. The first one is starting, it's coming Wednesday at Firebird University. We're doing a full-day workshop. That's the first one in the series that we have planned. So, with that, why I wanted to come here and talk to you today is to basically introduce my colleague and my new boss. So we have a new country manager at Microsoft Sri Lanka, a person who had been with us for a very long time, ever since the Microsoft Sri Lanka office was started. So he will tell his story and he will probably share with you a number of other interesting things that we have lined up. So we have right now 61 student ambassadors to run this whole program. Very soon, about 10 of them are graduating, and I'll be kicking them out the day they graduate. So that's no exception. But we have a new program now, an MSP alumni. We already have about 15 former student ambassadors joined already. We're planning some different kinds of activities also with them. So it's an expert group already. They're already working in a number of leading companies, leading projects. So you'll be able to hear from them very soon, probably starting from October. You might have some of the suggestions came from a discussion I had with them was to have a quick, short session and a quick chance meeting, sharing their industry experience, so their new industry experience on what they're doing now. So we might start that from October. So with that, let me call upon Imran. Just to address you and to share his thoughts and to share his new vision for Microsoft Sri Lanka.
So I'll prefer to maybe speak off stage if that's okay. Am I fairly audible at the back? Can you guys hear me? Most times when I do a presentation, people tell me they could only see me, but they couldn't hear me. Thankfully, I have a decent light, so that's why you can see. So very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thanks, Vila, for having me here. It's a great honor for me to be here. Most of you know that I'm a Muslim. Today happens to be a very special day for me. Right? It's the day that we celebrate our festival. And for a Muslim, a lot of things happen during this day. We meet a lot of relatives which we haven't seen or heard from in a couple of years. So we use this occasion to meet and greet them. We go meet up with friends whom we haven't heard from or seen in a very long time. A lot of them happens to me. As I speak now, there is a lot of people at home waiting. So although it's a special day for Muslims, I too am a Muslim. I chose to be here. I chose to be here. There is a reason for that. Like I said earlier, I consider it a great privilege and honor to be speaking a few words with some of the brightest and most talented people in the country. You guys, or anyone else. You guys. Right? When I look at what this country can achieve, or what we have achieved in the last so many years, and what we can potentially achieve for the next few years, you guys can decide what that is. Right? Because you guys are all very bright people. With that in mind, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I started. Right? So I also had very humble beginnings. I come from a middle class family. So I completed my O-levels, just like most of you would have done. Right? All of you have done your O-levels. I completed my O-levels and I got pretty decent results, at least for the amount that I studied. I got a distinction for English. I got 2 credit passes. I got credit pass for mathematics and religion. The rest of it was all simple classes. And I know most of you would probably have much better results on their O-levels. Right? Then after O-levels, I decided that I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not going to be a lawyer. Why I didn't want to become a doctor? Because I didn't want to kill people. I didn't want to become a lawyer because I didn't want to appeal for criminals. I also didn't want to be a traditional engineer, like a civil engineer. You get all those types of engineers. So no sooner I was done with O-levels, I enrolled for a diploma in computer studies. Those days they were very popular. Right? This was about 14 years back. They were very popular. So I enrolled for a diploma in computer studies. It was a 4.5-month program. This was at an institution called DPAs. Have you ever heard of DPAs? No, right? So I don't think they are around now. About 6-7 years back, they got acquired by IDM. You know IDM, right? So they got acquired by IDM, and I don't know what really happened after that. So I successfully completed the diploma. I had a grade point average of about 90. Not bad for a guy who barely managed to pass O-levels. Then no sooner I finished my diploma, I started programming. So my first course was actually on Java program. Java was pretty popular at that time as well. And while I was studying Java programming, I also studied for Microsoft certifications at that time. So my first certification was Microsoft Certified Solutions Developer. It's only today you have so many different certifications even on an application development track. But those days the only certification you had was Microsoft Certified Solutions Developer, MCSD. So I did that. And then when I was about 18, I started working as a freelance developer. Guess how much my salary was? I was paid rupees 30 per hour. You guys won't do anything for 30 rupees per hour. That was my salary. I was paid 30 rupees per hour. But that's okay. That was decent. On a good month, I'll earn 6,000 rupees a month. On a decent average month, maybe I'll earn 4,500 or 5,000 rupees a month developing websites. Often there are certain events in life which takes you back, or alters your course of direction. My mother is an asthma patient. My father is a doctor. They still are. Right? Suddenly my mother lost her hearing completely. That was when I was 18 or 18 and a half. Just completely went black. She couldn't hear a single thing I would talk. So that required a lot of medication. My father was also not too well as well. So being a diabetic patient, that also requires a lot of medication. So when my parents were investing a lot on medicines, that directly impacted my studies because there was not a lot of excess money left to fund my studies. And you know, courses are pretty expensive. It's only today you have like 100 universities offering programs. But those days, there were very handful of universities that were offering degrees. And it was very expensive. Today, because there is abundance of degree programs, it's a little more affordable. 14, 15 years back, it wasn't very affordable. So I couldn't actually do a degree. But thankfully, I saved enough. Even though I earned 4,000-5,000 rupees a month average, I saved enough money. I worked for about a year as a freelance developer. I used that money and started a course on networking. And my first course of study was Microsoft Certified Systems Engineering. Now you would ask me, I was studying software development with Java and Visual Basic. So my first language was Visual Basic 5.0. Later on it was Visual Basic 6.0. So when I was in the software development track, why on earth did I move to networking? I was always a very curious guy. I still am. So I love the way websites appear. You know, you type a URL in the browser. Those days I remember Netscape, they are no longer there now, and you know why that is. Right? I love the way websites appear when you type a URL. But I just didn't know how it actually appeared. So the formal definition that is given on textbooks, so if you talk to a lecturer at that time, is that another PC in the planet, somewhere in the planet, is actually serving that website for you. That's the most simple definition. But I was wondering how. Then I get a bit more detailed answer. You have TCP/IP addresses, and that's how you find websites in the world. I didn't understand what TCP/IP addressing was. So because of that, I was very curious to see how the software that we develop gets connected and gets presented to the users. That's why I decided to take a course on networking. And I took a course on networking. I finished 7 subjects in about 4 months. And then in 4 months, I became a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. During that time, I was configuring Windows 8. Have you heard of Windows 8? What if you do? That means the audience is not too young. So that's good. Right? So I was configuring Windows 8, Windows 8 3.51, and thereafter Windows 8 4.0, then came Windows 2000 and so forth. But no sooner I finished Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer at the age of 19, I started working at a company called Zillion Systems Solutions as a system engineer. So I was looking after their network, which had about 75 pieces, not a big network compared to the networks we have today. About 75 pieces, and I was also a client-facing engineer. So I did that role for about 2.5 years. And then I started earning a little more decent money than what I used to earn as a freelance web designer. It is with that money I started investing on a degree. Right? So I never had a degree when I started working. Now why am I saying that? I've heard of people who commit suicide when they fail A-levels. I've heard of people who commit suicide when they fail a degree. It's not the end of the world. I didn't even do my A-levels. Right? It's not the end of the world. So I started the degree while I was working, almost 3 years into my professional life. Then I left Zillion and I worked for a startup company and I was doing consulting and training on Microsoft technologies. Thereafter, I was fortunate enough to work for a Microsoft partner. And when I was working for this particular partner, there were not many Microsoft certified people during this time. And I was in demand in the industry. But I was made to understand that I was in demand in the industry. So there were many lucrative offers that I got, both locally as well as overseas. But I decided not to take any. Trust me, the money was good. And the money would have been very useful for me, but I decided not to take any of these lucrative offers. There was a reason for that. I always wanted to join this company called Microsoft. I was a great believer of Bill Gates, although I have never seen him until that time. Microsoft for me at that time was not about a software company. It was about a company that could change lives. Some time ago, Bill Gates defined a vision for the company. The vision was he wanted to have a PC in every desk of every household. When that vision was defined, people were laughing. When that vision was defined, people took it as a joke, they were laughing. But look at the reality today. Almost everybody has a PC. The ones who don't have a PC wants to go and use someone else's PC, or they go to a cafe. The fact is that PC has almost now become a lifestyle of many. Right. So I always wanted to join this company, and thankfully I didn't have to wait for too long. I got absorbed into Microsoft as a contract employee, and that's fine because that's representing Microsoft. Then I got absorbed into the full-time category, and I was always doing a technical role. So when I was working in my early years at Microsoft, I was a technology strategist. I was the guy who would look at the customer's environment and see how best to utilize Microsoft technology to drive efficiencies or reduce cost, or for whatever purpose the customer needs. I have now, like I said, up until this time, I have always been a technology guy. I could develop software. I could also connect systems together. Then I wanted to do something very radical. I don't know why. I wanted to move out of the field of technology, meaning specializing in technology, and move into a very famous discipline, which is sales management or sales. Right. Now, I have never taken a formal course or a program or study on sales. Never. The only courses I have taken are Java, Windows 80, Windows 2000. I have taken some courses on PT 5.0 and 6.0. I have never studied .NET as well. Those are the only courses I took. Now, something in my mind said I need to change. So I changed. Moved. I was willing to let go of everything that I've learned so far for a different discipline, which is sales. So in my first year as a salesperson at Microsoft, selling Microsoft technology for customers and partners, I had a most bizarre start that you could ever imagine. I was probably the lowest performing employee at that year. I was handling the manufacturing sector. Companies like MS Holdings, Brandings, Hyderabad, you know these companies. This was during the recession. This was about 4-5 years back. And all these companies were scaling down. They were letting go of employees. When they were letting go of employees, it was almost impossible for them to invest on technology. So because of that, I had a very bad start to my sales career. Then I was thinking, have I done the right thing? Then there were a couple of people who made some fairly interesting comments. I'll tell you this in Sinhala because it was mentioned in Sinhala. They were telling me, because I was so settled in my technical role, I was doing so well. The underlying meaning behind that message was, why on earth did you change your career? Right? Why on earth did you change your career? So he's right. I mean, the people who said it was right. I just stuck my neck out to a train that was harmlessly moving by. Right? Now, I wasn't dejected. I was disappointed. I wasn't dejected. I wasn't demotivated. If there is a win, there is a win. Right? So, second year in my sales career. Now, I told you I've never studied sales. Second year in my sales career at Microsoft. These very same companies have a wonderful year. So I overachieved all my numbers and my targets. The second year I became one of the top performing employees for sales. Right? So first year was bad. Second year was fabulous. I'll talk you through what I learned in all those years later on. First year was bad, second year was really good. Because I had a very good second year in my career in sales, just 2 years in my career in sales, I then got appointed as a director to run the Microsoft commercial business, both for Sri Lanka and Maldives. Now that's another change. All this time, I was working as an individual. Right? I am my own world. Right? If I was coding, I'll do the coding myself. okay, I need to collaborate with others in terms of putting everything together. But I was my own self. I didn't have people reporting to me. Even in my sales career, I was a sales guy, but I didn't have people reporting to me. Now I became a director. Suddenly I see 5 people reporting. Now that's another set of things. Now thankfully I also managed to complete an MBA within those 2 years. Now when I became a director, now it's not about what I do. It's not about what I do. When you become a people manager or a manager, you have people reporting to you. It's not about what you do. It's about what you get done from others. Right? It's about what you get done from others. So again, I struggled in the first 6 months. First 6 months. There were 2 reasons for that. I was inexperienced. Then I had another life-defining moment. Right? I'm telling you this because there's a lot of learnings behind this. So it was, in the first 6 months it was tough. I was inexperienced. Then I had another life-defining moment. I lost my son. I lost my 3-month-old son. So 3 months into the job, he was born. Within the first 6 months of the job, I lost my son. So now what do you do? Often when you lose your most loved one, at times you give up in life. Right? I chose not to. Not that I'm sad. Not that I'm not sad. Sorry. Not that I'm not sad. Not that I'm not hurt. Not that everything at home is very rosy, because I also have a wife who's equally hurt or more hurt than me. But when I had that experience, it broadened my perspectives of life. It taught me some things that I would have never probably learned. I was always a workaholic before that. Anytime you see me, I'll be working, coding or browsing or fixing things. So when this happened, it broadened my perspectives as a person. So then I became very different to the way I approach life. Because I became very different to the way I approach life, I started managing people very differently, people who reported me. So there was one speech I made for the staff. So I said we had a tough 6 months. I just made one speech to my staff and I said, you don't work to live. You don't work to live. You should first live to work. Right? So you should first live to work. And I told him that sometimes you also need a little bit of time. All I told him was, go try your best and see what happens. Even after trying our best, if nothing happens, that's fine. At least we tried our best. So we tried our best. We recovered the business, and I had a decent finish to the year in my first year as a director. Then it's also important that you also talk to people who you can learn from. So Bella is not only a colleague of mine, he's also a friend of mine. So I also talk to Bella. There are other people that I talk to. I'm always open to learn from a lot of people, including yourselves. It's not about learning from people who are only older than me. There's a lot that I learned even from my 6-year-old niece. She taught me some very cool iPad features which I have never seen. I'm not happy that she has an iPad, but at least she taught me some features that I never thought it's available, or I never thought there is such features in this world. So always be open to learn. So first year went by. Second year I had a mega year. Did extremely well. Third year just ended. 30th of June, that is a couple of months ago. And I had a 3-year tenure in that role, and I did extremely well. Thanks to my team, thanks to my colleagues and friends like Bella and a couple of others, I did extremely well. That taught me something else. Sometimes, if you want to go places in your career, if you want to go places in your life, you can't do it alone. You just can't do it alone. You need to team up, partner with people who can also help you take over places. And today, if there was one reason why I'm today the country manager at Microsoft, it's my team, and it's also because of some of the colleagues like Bella and a couple of others are having. So as of 1st of July, I was told that I'll be the country manager at Microsoft. And I'm very proud to be there. I'm very proud and I'm very happy to be there. When I decided not to do A-levels, I never thought I'll be the country manager for a company like Microsoft. I never dreamt that I'll be CEO of a company. But I'm very happy and proud that I am. Now, I'm also happy and proud because I'm the head of Microsoft. So why Microsoft? So, Microsoft is a big company. It's a well-famous company. It has a lot of resources. It also has a lot of great technology that people can leverage. If you look at what we have done over the last few years, it's not about selling. It's not about the businesses running software. It's about how we as a company impact each and every life in the planet. Office is like a sickness. Everybody has it. Now we just acquired Skype. I saw some case studies of how Skype has helped fathers who are abroad stay close to their wife when the wife is about to give birth. Now such technology was not possible 20 years back. It was not in the same way you can take you to experience. The reason I'm proud to work at Microsoft is because it gives me an ability as a true Sri Lankan to contribute to the company. I always say to myself, I'm first a Sri Lankan and then an employee of Microsoft. It gives me the ability to invest in people like you all. When we invest in people like you all through all the different programs we run, in UK places, I'm happy that I at least contributed in a very small way. That is what Microsoft allows me to do. And not many jobs allows you to do. I was always passionate to work for this company because you could always impact a lot of lives in whichever way you want. And this is why I'm proud to be at Microsoft. Now, what's the opportunity for you? Right? I understand most of the audience are application developers, software developers, who aspire to be software developers. Is that right? Is that right? It's okay to talk to me. I do that. Right? So, what's in the market now? Anyone knows how big the Sri Lankan IT market is? How big or small, whichever way you want to say. It's only $450 million. Sri Lankan IT market is about $480 million. We have a vision of going up to $1 billion. We have a vision of going up to $1 billion. What do you think is stopping us from going to $1 billion? Any ideas? What do you think is stopping us from going to $1 billion? Why are lots of companies who are headquartered here but also expanding into other markets? One is strategic reason, there is another reason. Any thoughts, any ideas? Let's have a dialogue. Why do you think we do it? That's a perceived issue. And the reason is actually we don't have enough people. We don't have enough people. Even if we get the best of companies in the world to come and invest, we may not have enough people to actually fulfill employment. And that's why a lot of these projects, or lots of the bigger outsourcing projects or software development projects, goes to countries like India or some other country in the region. We get a few as well, not that we don't. But we can actually get more if we have new people. India is known as a technology powerhouse. Correct? But I personally think, and not because I'm a Sri Lankan, I've heard this from many non-Sri Lankans, as a percentage of the population, or as a percentage of the IT fraternity, we have much better talented people. We don't bullshit. Right? We are honest in our way we work, and we do work hard. Right? So the only way we could actually, aspire to grow more in this industry is actually have more people. Very smart people like you. How many startups do you think we have in the country? How many startups or startup companies, like, so let me qualify. How many companies do you think we have which are less than 3 years old and running? Companies set up by individuals, like, some of you guys getting together and setting up a company. How many such companies do you think we have? It is less than 500, but it's actually roughly about 100. Not a great number. If you go to other countries of similar size, you'll probably close upon thousands. So what's really going wrong? Is it because we don't have the talent or the capability or the competency? We have all. I think there's a problem in the way we think. How many of you guys aspire to have your own companies? Who are the group of students who presented it? So firstly, congratulations guys on winning one of the awards. But you know who the winner was, right? It was a team from UK. So I met them in US. They came and presented to us. You know what they're going to do next? They're going to commercialize that product they gave. I think it was a music thing where you can just transfer music from phone to phone to download the application from the App Store and use it. They're going to commercialize that product and start selling in the commercial market. They've set up their own company. Right. So if they can do it, and UK is a country where most of the work gets done in Asia, at least IT related. If they can do it, so can we. Right. So that's why I said at the beginning of my presentation, or my speech rather, that I'm here because I think you guys can take the country places. If some of you guys get together and put all your thoughts together, there's a lot you can. And what you do, not only you guys, similar talented people like people outside who are not here. If all you guys get together and put your thoughts together, I think the country can go places. What are the opportunities? Almost every month, I get a call from a partner or a customer, can you find me a person from Yapa? I say no, I don't have it. And then in a month I go and visit that customer. The guy has actually hired a guy who was working for another company. So it's not that new talent has come in. It's the same talent which is moving from one place to another. And once they get exhausted with that whole circulation of moving from one company to another, they go abroad. So I didn't see a lot of new talent coming in for Sharp. So Sharp is one of our hottest products. It's almost $1 million in terms of worldwide revenue. I haven't seen a lot of new Sharp talent coming in. BI. Microsoft has a great BI built on SQL technology, using Excel and Excel services, using Office as a front end, using reporting services and so forth. Great product, great platform, huge demand, not many people. Now there's a new phenomenon, mobile apps. Mobile apps. Now it's no secret that Microsoft Windows phones is not the market leader. We are probably number 3. Right? We are number 3. but that gap is narrowing every day as we speak. There are about 10 or 12 countries in the world where we are selling more Windows phones than iPhones. But we are number 3. But guess what? When we launched Microsoft Exchange, which is our email and collaboration product, we were number 3 as well. Lotus Notes was number 1, which was an IBM product. Today we have 72% market share for messaging, which is on Microsoft. Right. We launched cloud services in Sri Lanka much later than Google. Google didn't launch what Google was offering. Today, as I speak here, we have 4 of the biggest corporates in the country running Microsoft-based cloud services. At times we start late, but we catch up very fast. At times we start late, but we catch up very fast. So this new phenomenon I was talking about, mobile apps, is also catching up like wildfire. I was told by Villa there is almost like 400-500 apps that are developed locally in Sri Lanka for the Windows App Store. Both for Windows 8 traditional PCs and also for Windows 10. That is going to be. Microsoft as a company is investing on application developers to build apps. I know Villa is running a lot of programs around it. Now that's another opportunity for you to create great ideas and have your own startups. I think Villa was once sharing a story about an individual or a group of individuals who developed an application, submitted to the App Store. He was selling it about $1 per download, right? $1 per download. And he had some downloads. He had consumers downloading that app from the App Store. And he was narrating the story to Villa, which I heard from Villa. He was really happy about earning some money because that was the first sum he earned outside of what his parents give. Now that didn't require a lot of effort. It didn't require a lot of effort. All it took was he had programming skills just like you do. He thought of a creative idea, a creative product, developed it, submitted it to the App Store. Now he developed it once, each and every time somebody downloads it, he earns money. Now it doesn't get much simpler than that. I wish we had that when we started. Right. Then Microsoft also has great resources and tools. We as a company have the capacity to invest in startups. I think programs like DreamSpark will help you get going. But the thing is, we need to get going as a company. We need to get going as a company. Right. We need to get going as a company. Always remember, have a set of values in your life. I have 3 values in my life. My first value is family. That's the most important thing for me in my life. It's not the job. Second is persistence. You know what persistence means? It's the desire to keep trying no matter how many times you fail. Number 3 is people. Right? I'm very passionate about people. People in my own organization, people at home, and people in the community like me. I always like to see people going places, and if I can contribute to that in some way, I'll always do. So, for you as individuals, I've spoken to you about how you can start something, the opportunities that are available. But don't forget who you are, and that's why you need your values. Now, often when you start something on your own, or even if you go work for a company, or if you start your career, there are always obstacles. There are 5 lessons I have learned in life. 5 key lessons I have learned. One is be good at taking criticism. You know what criticism means, right? There will always be a fraternity of people who will always look down on you. They will always question your ability. Trust me, I have a few as well. right now. There are lots of people out there who are questioning my ability to do this job. Criticism is the best way for you to move forward. I love criticism because it helps you move. It helps you move. Kick it up, that's what criticism is for. Second thing is you will always have disappointments in life. Be prepared for it. You will never know when you will get it. But learn to move forward. Like I said, I have absolutely no idea why people who fail A-levels commit suicide. You heard the stories as well. Many a times, people who do O-levels commit suicide. It's only A-levels. Sorry, A-levels. I haven't heard much on O-levels. I'm sure there is a few as well. But heard a lot about A-levels. Their reason is they are disappointed that they can't enter university. So if you don't enter university, it doesn't mean that your life is over. You can still do a lot of things. Some say, I don't have a degree, I'm nothing in life. No, you're not. You don't have to have the best of degrees in town to do anything in life. There are many people out there who are world-class degree holders, passed out with great honors, but not doing much. All you need is the right intention. If you guys have the intention, you can just do whatever you want to do. It's only your imagination that will The third lesson I've learned in life is to be humble. Now when I say humble, what do I mean? The day you stop being humble is the day you stop learning. Have you known or heard of this set of people called the Noitavas? I'm sure you must be having a few in your own respective classes at the moment. Do you think the Noitavas learn? They learn, but not much. Because they don't give themselves a chance to learn, because they think they know it all. Irrespective of what stage you are in your life, at whatever stage you are in your life, you might be at the pinnacle of your career. Always be humble and be open to learn. Where is Charit? So you know Charit, right? So Charit was an intern with Microsoft for about 6 months. There was a lot that I learned from Charit. Charit is a student, I'm running a business. But I still learned a lot from Charit. If I don't hold myself open to be learning, I'll call you not. So always be humble in life. Number 4, when things don't go right, don't give up. Things are not meant to go right most times. Right? Things are not meant to go right most times. If you keep trying, things should be okay. Number 5, don't compromise on your values. Example, family is your value. If you are married or you are close to your family, don't compromise those values. Family is your best friend. I mean, you have a lot of best friends, but family is always your best friend. Even if you don't have a job, if you don't have money, if you don't have a career, you still have a family. At least that's what I hope things. You will have a family. So be close to what you value the most and don't give up. Right? And finally, like I said, I don't want to take too much more time. I did it. I'm humble about it and I'm also proud about it. Like I said, I didn't have a degree to start with. I didn't need to have a degree to start with. I started my degree only after I started. There was a lot of people out there who said I can't do what I did. Right? Now I don't know whether I'll be successful in this role. But the fact is I'm happy I'm in this role. And I'll do everything that is possible to be in this role and do well in this role. It's because I'm willing to learn. Listen from my colleagues, my peers, superiors, and so on. If you want to go far in life, you need to start listening. And that's what I always do. So I did it. Or I managed to do it. You guys are much smarter than me. I know that. I could see you and I know you guys are much smarter than me. Those days I used to judge people whether they are smarter than me if they are wearing specs. Those days, when I was immature. But I can see from the audience, you guys are very smart people. And there is no reason why you guys can't do it. pick your intention. Pick your intention. Know what you want to do in life. There will be so much of obstacles stopping you from doing it. Don't stop yourself. Keep moving forward. And finally you'll see the light. With that, I want to stop. If you have any questions more than that, it's not a question in one year. So with that, I want to stop here. I want to wish you guys all the very best. I know some of you guys are on my Facebook as well, so you'll probably see a lot of new updates coming up on my Microsoft Plus. I encourage all of you guys to join our Facebook page. I'm hoping most of you guys are in it. If not, to join our Facebook page because that's where we do most of our updates as well. So again, pick your intention. Just go out there and do all the very best.
Thank you, Steve. So I thought you a really nice story about his life, education, current marketing trends and industry trends, and what are the opportunities that you will get in the future, and what are the areas that you have to grow. So it was really exciting event, and I hope you guys got really good impressions, information about what is done in his past and how he came this level. Even a qualified guy become a country manager of Microsoft. So that's how the world is moving. Microsoft is one of the topest leading organizations in Sri Lanka. So I'm really happy to be here because to listen to such a exciting biography about him. And I'm really thankful for him to be here because he's a really busy guy. And it's time to move on to the industry presentation now. Mr. Kanishka from Sri Lanka Cyber Security, Cyber Emergency Rescue Team, and Secretary of the IS Square. And I invite him to do his presentation. Maybe he will give you another set of information about what he's doing.
Thank you, Romana. I suppose I wish I would have been a little bit earlier, arrived a bit earlier to listen to Imran's very inspiring speech. Actually, I remember some time back listening through one of his presentations also about social engineering. So till this day I remember how he presented with so much commitment and so very inspiring. So today actually I'm in front of you to present about information security and privacy. So let's go into the presentation now. Okay, so today's agenda is we have the introduction. So at the end of the introduction and at the end of the presentation, you will be able to get an idea about information security and privacy. Basically, what an IT policy will help you to secure information security in your organization, as well as you will get an understanding about why we need information security, as well as the latest trends that are out there, plus protection of privacy, talking about the local context as well as the international scene. So question and answers, actually you could talk to me during the presentation and get your, if you have any sort of doubts, you can clarify them. And okay, so first of all, I would like to give you an introduction about Sri Lanka CERT. Can you raise your hand? How many of you have heard about Sri Lanka CERT prior to this? Roughly around 20, like that.
20 something. So let's see now. Sri Lanka CERT, maybe for everybody's sort of knowledge, let's now we have Sri Lanka started in 2006. Roughly now, how many years? Like 8 years, almost 8 years. So there are many other CERTs around the world. Like if you say the closest country, India. So India also is having a CERT. So let's see why we have established a CERT in Sri Lanka. CERT is stands for, like I earlier described, it's Computer Emergency Readiness Team, or sometimes we term it as Computer Emergency Response Team. So this change between readiness and response, what's the difference? Now, if you think about an incident or any sort of cyber emergency situation, if somebody is having prior readiness, it's better, right? If you just respond to it, it's like an emergency. So we termed ourselves from last year as a readiness team, not emergency response team. So like I said, there are many other CERTs around the world. There are CERTs in Asia as well as if you take US CERT is considered to be the biggest influencing CERT in the world, as well as in Asia Pacific region you can say we have the AP CERT. So AP CERT is consisting of countries like Japan, Malaysia and India. Like now what we say about AP CERT is we have cyber drill, a cyber drill that is helping us to assess our readiness in situations like, for example, if we talk about a situation where a country's say infrastructure is attacked or something like that. So in such a situation, how would we respond? So we coordinate this exercise with the help of the countries that are belonging to AP CERT on an annual basis. So the benefit of that is we get to know how to communicate in an emergency situation. Say there is a set of procedures. So likewise, in case if you don't practice, what happens is you don't know what to do in an emergency situation. So we have been conducting this type of drills for the last few years, as well as we have been designing the scenarios for the drill as well for the past couple of years. So the other thing is we are also a member of FIRST. Anybody has heard of FIRST before? Can you raise your hand? Anybody? Okay. FIRST stands for Forum of Incident Response Security Teams. So it's again a collection of security teams that are collaborating to respond to cyber security incidents. One example is we have you can say Facebook. Facebook has a security team, as well as Google. And I'm sure Microsoft is also having a security team which is in the FIRST, representing FIRST. So the benefit of FIRST is that if you need any assistance from any global players like eBay or PayPal, or some particular incident is happening, we can always have contact with them. Now Sri Lanka CERT is a full member of it's a full member of FIRST organization. So we do have such contacts with them to respond to any incident. Okay, let's look at what some of the incidents, some of the activities that we carry out on a daily basis. Now, the first thing is responsive activities. Now, when you say responsive activities, what can you give me some examples, or do you have anything in mind, like what could be response activities which is provided by CERT? Now, you encounter incidents, right? Say your web server was attacked, so that could be an incident. So in such a case, now if somebody reports that their web server was attacked, we can do a response activity. That is, we will respond to their request and ask them, collect their logs, and we analyze them. We can find out what sort of compromise has happened. So that's one example for a response activity. So likewise, we have hacked email accounts, or various incidents are there. So the next thing is awareness activities. So awareness activities, in a sense, like the best example would be something like this. So we do carry out awareness activities as part of our events. So next thing is consultancy. So we do provide consultancy on system hardening, like various areas, like maybe some company needs to secure their cloud storage, or some requirements are there. So we provide such services as well. So part of our awareness activities, I can mention the Cyber Security Week. That is the annual national conference that we have every year. So this is, sorry, I think this is going to since it's running on battery, it always goes to this thing. So just have to bear with that. So these are some of the pictures that have been taken one of our awareness events. I think in 2012, last year also, we had this event, and this year also we are going to have the cybersecurity event. So another event that we carry out is the information security quiz. I think some of you may be aware of it, and some of you have even participated. I think you can, like, if you look at the picture carefully, you can see some of the persons may be already here. And yeah, we have it actually. I think it's a good idea if I tell this also. Next month we are having the information security quiz. That is we are having for the third time. So 25th of September is the date, and even any of you can participate in through the university. Like you can have 3 members per team and contest. So it's an exciting quiz where you can go through 8 rounds of multiple choice questions, and maybe that's basically assessing your information security knowledge. So I take that chance also to update you on our event. So let's move forward. So let's now, today's topic is the information security. So like in the early ages, like when mankind was going through different stages of evolution, in the early stages you had the agricultural society. So during that agricultural society, what was the valuable thing? Any idea? Yes. Okay. I think land was the most valuable thing, right? Agricultural society. You need land to cultivate, and so as time goes by, you then move towards the industrial society. So during the industrial society, where the valuable things were people who has owned oil wells, or that was one of the valuable things. So as time goes on, now it's the time of information. The age of information has arrived. So in these times, we value most is the information, right? So as the value of information grows, the peoples or the countries who are having access to information or who possess more information have a better advantage over countries who doesn't possess that much information. So so you define a country whether it's developed or not by the wealth of information such a country has. So those countries without much information have to incur money and acquire those information. So today's society is based on such economics. So let's proceed. So the next thing to understand when you talk about information is how the difference between assets versus information assets versus tangible assets. I suppose I'm actually doing a very basic sort of introduction to the information security. So I am sure you have different kind of skills in the audience, like where you have from the highest level of knowledge as well as some sort of different knowledge. So I'm trying to balance it out so that it's not very boring also. So let's see how it goes. So when you say tangible assets, you can touch them, right? You know it's a tangible asset. So information assets, the difference is it doesn't have any physical form, so it can be flexible. So it maybe it's contained in a tangible thing, but the information is it's not tangible. It's not a tangible asset. So the difference again, sharing. Information asset is possible. Information assets, you can share the asset. So the value, but when you consider the tangible assets, reproduction is impossible. Or with reproduction, the value of the asset is reduced. So the more assets you have, the value is less. Then we have the value again. Value is the total sum of each value is the total value of the tangible asset. Okay. Then let's talk about risks to information assets. Risk is conflicts over ownership and control of information. So there can be when you own some information asset, there can be a conflict of ownership. Ownership is sometimes that particular information could be a copyrighted thing. So it's the ownership of that is questionable. So that is a risk. So let's move on. There are 4 R's in information security. Let's see what they are. The value depends on the right information. Right information is there is no change to the information. Let's say there is now you have all heard about the 3 R's in information security, right? the confidentiality, integrity and availability. Now, right information is the integrity part. There is no, when someone needs information, the correct information is given at the correct time. So that's the valuable factor of it. So that's preserving integrity. And then you have the right people involved. So you preserve the confidentiality factor of it. Then you have the next thing is the information you are available. It is available on right time. So that is the availability factor. So there is another factor called right form. So if the information is not in the correct form, you have a problem. So let's look at the correlation between risk and information assets. So when you talk about risk and threat and vulnerability, so if there is a vulnerability to a particular asset and if it can be exploited, then there is a resulting threat. So the threat can be reduced by the management. Risk management can reduce the threat. As well as if you have vulnerabilities, more vulnerabilities, it will increase the risk. So the asset value, what's the relation between the asset value and risk? So the more valuable the asset, you have a higher risk. Alright, so you have then for risk you have risk management methods. So best thing is to avoid the risk. So if you have particular risk, you need to avoid it. A good example is say you do have a outsourcing, you do have a data center, and you tend to do your operation within your office. So if you want to reduce the risk from whatever happening within your office doing operations, you can outsource it to a data center. So that is, you reduce or you avoid the risk. And then you look at the example of risk transfer. Example is, you have a vehicle and you take insurance for that vehicle. So when you take insurance, what happens? In case your vehicle meets with an accident, you don't have to bear the cost of repairing. So you transfer that to an insurance agency. Okay. The other method is you accept the risk. Something like this. You are looking at the risks that are available for your particular asset and considering the consequences of that risk. Like if it's a small risk, you already accept it with the approval of the management of the company. You think that there is no big damage to that particular situation. So what you do is you accept that risk. So these are the 4 methods how you manage risk. Then let's look at how you implement controls. Controls are 3 categories. One is administrative, the second category is physical, and the third category is technical. So for administrative controls, you do have things like your setting up of an information security policy in your organization, or the best example is the ISO standard, which is based on these controls. There are 133 controls that and 11 domains included in the ISO 27000 standard. So these are particular administrative controls that you can look into. Then you have physical controls. Physical controls in a sense, what do you have physical controls in an organization? So in order to preserve the information security, you do have physical controls. Example is you do have a physical barrier to enter into the organization, right? Or you have biometric locks, or such physical controls are implemented to preserve the information within your boundaries. So technical controls in a sense, examples are you do have firewalls and IDS, IPS, those mechanisms are there to preserve the information. So with the combination of all these three controls, you do achieve the security required. But one thing you have to mention is there is no 100% security you can't achieve. Even in any product, you can say it's the most popular product, or it's the those who say something is never going to happen will be very sorry, because there is no 100% solution for anything. So now when you look at those controls, and there are certain ways that you can look into studying how to get master these controls. One certification that you would aspire to do is CERT, Certified Information Systems Auditor. So if you do like to look into the area of auditing, so now information security systems audits are there. So in order to study that area, you can become a CISA. Or else, if you do have some technical area you need to master, that is a certification is CISSP certification is much preferred, because it covers all the technical aspects better than the CISA certification. So I am not telling CISSP is best because of I'm the secretary of the local chapter, but when you compare these two certifications, CISSP is covering technical details in much depth, as well as you do have the CEH certification, that is covering another angle. So let's move into the type of security trends in the recent past. You all remember there are hacking incidents which have been involved with the RSA. RSA is a big security company which provides different defense services to various defense contractors, as well as you all have heard about this two-factor authentication token, right? You do have a token along with the security keys generated, where you need to in the best example is locally you use the HSBC account. They are providing you a token, as well as when you are doing online banking, you have to generate that particular key. So the RSA is the company was behind the two-factor authentication. So their algorithm was compromised. So you can think about the impact of that particular incident to so many customers, as well as you can see the denial of services attack, which happened around 2011 to Korean websites. So it becomes not only a local issue, but it can be an international issue where you get attacked from a different country. So another example, a well-known example, is the Stuxnet worm that particularly attacked nuclear reactors in Iran. So It's particularly targeting particular sector of an organization. So next thing is the social engineering angle. So you do have a lot of different type of attacks happening in the world. Example, another thing is phishing. So you set up a particular website, which is looking very much similar to the Facebook login page, and you attract your victims to that, and you gather their credentials. So these are well-known things which are happening. Then let's see who is targeted. So when you look at the target areas, you can see financial services are most targeted, because why do you rob a bank? That is where the money is. So likewise, you target those areas. So next in line is control systems, like SCADA systems. You have power, gas, drinking water. Those sectors are targeted in a country. Like if all those sectors are automated, look at the situation, how it will impact the country. So next, even airport and air traffic control systems, they are also targeted. So think of a situation where you are flying and the control tower is giving a wrong message to the pilot to land. So the impact is disastrous. So the other area is logistics systems, areas where traveling, like transportation systems, trains, shipping, all those areas could be affected. Then another area that is targeted most is the government services. So to disrupt certain e-services, attackers could target those areas as well. Then let's look at certain areas that recently what happened. You can remember, not even, I think last week, Chinese hacking team caught taking over decoy water plant. So now these systems are from recently, the SCADA systems, they are targeted. So you can, like, what happens here was they have set up a dummy system, and you call them a honeypot. So you attract people who are interested in attacking these systems. So you like you set up your untouched version of XP virtual machine. You let it run, and you can monitor who's targeting, something similar to that. So similarly, this Chinese team have been trying to take control of a system, SCADA system. So this more news, like Android one-click Google authentication method puts users' business at risk. So like it's very good that the mobile platform is developing and a lot of applications are developed, but look at the security. Like, do they really consider security as a highest part when they are developing the applications? They only look at certain features only. So this is a good example why you have to look at security in the inception, like not at a later stage. Then you have this news. What it says is not all secrets are like nuclear culture and fear of the next order. So now insider threat is a big issue. Now if you consider people working in an organization, they just go through a normal random check, but if not proper background check is done, or Snowden's case, like you put all eggs in one basket, something like that. So he was given so much of access to all the systems. There was no person, there is no administrator who's administrating, like, you know, looking after the administrator. Like he had a lot of access to the system. So this is one area where human resource, like, you know, when you hire people into an organization, how you look, you have to look into their profiles, as well as another area is how when somebody is given too much access to important information, what can happen. Then you have this another attack trends that is given, like, you know, you have automation of attack tools. Like example, from internet you are able to download a lot of attack tools, like they are readily available. So this is also increasing the threat to information security in the current context. So you do have backtrack likewise, and can enable. So these are certain tools that you use to exploit vulnerable machines. So the other thing is faster discovery of vulnerabilities. Now, more software you release into the market, the more software platforms you have, the more vulnerabilities are there. So every day the rate of vulnerabilities are increasing. So then again you have increasing threat from infrastructure attacks. Like recently you have looked at the case like Iran nuclear reactors being attacked. So likewise, a lot of infrastructure related threats are there. Then you can get an idea about the increase of spam per day. Like when you consider in 2012, the percentage has actually decreased according to this graph. You can see it's because, you know, you have more systems that are fighting against spam. More takedowns are there. Like, you know, there are bot activities. They are being detected and they are being taken down. So that may have been a good impact on to reduce spam activity. So when you take this particular attack breakdown, you can see at the bottom you have various skill levels of attackers, from beginner, amateur, professional to expert. And on the other hand, you can see which is the related factor. Say beginners are very curious, so they do things for curiosity's sake. Then you have the recognition factor. So then self-profit, and at the top you have national interest. So when you consider people at the spy level, they are people who are doing the most dangerous type of attacks because they have national interest. So they do the most amount of damage. Then let's look at how to improve security. So like I earlier mentioned, there are various methods that you can use to improve security. One is the administrative side. So in administrative side you have the ISO standard. I think everybody over here must have heard about the ISO standard. And specifically the ISMS or the ISO 27001 is the standard which is governing the information security. And when you refer that, you have 11 administrative control domains and 133 controls. When you consider to secure an organization, you can actually adapt. So in case an organization is having an information security policy, you can align your policy towards along with the ISO standards. For example, if I say you consider about physical security, there is a particular domain aligned with in the ISO standard. So you can look at certain areas that how you could put controls and look at the physical security aspect as well. And the next area is you can use technical aspects to increase the security. For example, you can use cryptographical methods to increase the security in your organization. Like by not using plain text email, you can use something like GPG or PGP, some particular cryptographic method to encrypt your mail and communicate it to the other party. So likewise, you can use one-time passwords. So what's the value of a one-time password? Because it's only used one time, basically the chance of somebody acquiring it, or if you are doing a repetitive thing and you are using one-time password, the next time, even if that particular old password is released, they can't actually use that to identify the communication. So one-time passwords, firewalls, and particularly you can do lot of preventive action by doing vulnerability analysis tools, like running a vulnerability scanner against your own website or against your own product. You can learn a lot what are the available vulnerabilities in your software. So likewise, next thing is if you consider an organization, the detection like antivirus, IDS, IPS, these are also useful. Then in the recent times, you have SIEM solutions. Those are used to correlate logs and say give you a better intelligence or understanding about the threat to an organization. So how do we defend government websites? Basically, you have to look at certain areas, like web applications are the responsibility of the ministry and not the web serving. Like sometimes in understanding about the security aspects, certain organizations, government ministries, they tend to think that the website is something that belongs to the web development team, not about, they don't consider that the website is a replica of their image as well. So you need to understand that as well. Then the other thing is when you are developing web applications, you have to consider security from the start. Otherwise, it can have a bad effect later. So following methods like secure development lifecycle, or another thing to consider is you should not allow remote administration of the application. When you that is like if you allow remote administration, somebody else is capable of accessing it remotely, then you do have problems in that. Then you have closed systems in production sites. So you should not do any particular changes to the website when it's in production stage. Like if you need to minimize or you have to make the changes following the change management methods. Otherwise, the unauthorized changes will bring vulnerabilities. Then having layers of protection, like if you have a firewall, that may be not enough. You have another layer of protection. You build layers upon layer of protection to increase. Then if you do any changes to the website or your web application, you have to, even if you have done security testing before, you have to do a testing again to make sure that it's working. Then let's go to another area, that is protection of privacy. So the figure over here, 604,826 is the average number of identities exposed per breach in 2012. So you can see the magnitude of the threat that is happening to privacy. So these are individuals who maybe you, not you and me, but maybe other people who have trusted their information with another vendor or another company. So when you say personally identifiable information, what are these? That could be the email, your name, address, phone number, and credit card information. All this could be your personal identifiable information. Now, you have the UN guidelines related to protection of privacy. So, now in early as 1990 or very much before that, so you can look at the privacy related developments the UN has, like in they have principally agreed to 10 areas, like principles of lawfulness and fairness in protection of privacy. So then accuracy, and if some of your information is wrongly put, if you're related with the wrong reference, that is wrong. So another thing is principle of purpose specification, why that particular information is collected. So there should be a reason for that. Then principles of interested persons access. So that particular area is looking at only you need the access should be given to only relevant individuals, not everybody. So principles of security, supervision and sanctions, transport data flows is also important. Say example is like in case now a local site is compromised by somebody who's living on the other side of the planet, and we need to find out who this is. So in case if we want to know, then that particular data should be released to our country. So that is transport data flows. Like if in case what should be the method followed to deal with such situations. Then you have the European Union Data Protection Directive. That is also an area where privacy and information protection is considered. So in that you can see member states shall protect the fundamental rights and freedom of natural persons. So in European Union, there are countries a part of the European Union. They have an agreement that they will share data and according to a particular standard. So next is European Union Directive prohibits transferring personal information to countries that do not have adequate level of protection. So in case a particular company in Europe wants to start a particular their expansion into Sri Lanka, or they want to start up a new operation in here, then they look at what are the available data protection methods in here. So if our laws are not up to par with that, then they have a problem in setting up, or say Google wants to start a business here, or they want to put up servers here or something like that. So in case that is, they are looking at that as well. So then let's move on. Privacy protection in the Republic of Korea. So I'm taking these examples like, sometimes Korea could be, this is Asian country, so it could be more aligned with our economy. So they have a lot of laws concerning privacy protection. So personal information protection law in public. This law contains provisions for handling and managing personal information processed in computers of public institutions for the protection of privacy, as well as provisions related to reasonable performance of public business and protection of the rights and interests of people. So these are examples like Act on Promotion of Information and Communication Network Utilization. So the secrecy of information, how when a communication happens within the country or from one point to another, the protection to that information, or whether it's confidentially taken, that is also addressed in this. Then you have Location Information Protection Act. Say now everybody knows that your cell phone company can know where you are. So likewise, your location is considered a private or secret thing. So how that particular information is regulated when a particular government agency wants to know a particular person where is this. So that is looked at. And you have further privacy protection laws here mentioned, like Act on Promotion of Information and Communication Network. So I think I duplicated that. Sorry. Next, privacy protection in the US. So you do have a lot of privacy protection laws associated in US. It can go as long as 1974. They have Privacy Act, as well as Electronic Communications Privacy Act. So that is addressing secure communication from one point to the other. So when you say electronic communication, like what I talked to you, it's not considered under the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. It's purely considering about electronic, using the electronic medium. Or it could be like optical medium as well. So next is Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. So that is considering the financial organizations. Financial organizations, when you say financial organization, how they are sort of do business, fair business. So next thing is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. That is considering the health sector. So if particular agencies' health records contain personal private information. A lot of everybody at one stage has been in hospital. So even from the birth you are at hospital. So your details are there. So in case these are compromised, how it can be handled. SOX Act is also another act that explains about privacy, related to privacy, and as well as Online Privacy Protection Act. Mainly when you are providing, when you are online, if you are a minor, then if particular information is collected from that child, that is considered it's not correct. So it should be actually under the guidance of parents, so they should be aware. So that concludes my presentation. So this is our address and the phone number. If you do have any particular incidents that you want to notify us, or would you like to get any particular details about our organization, or if you personally have an incident or you need to inform us, you can get in touch with us. Okay, right? I'll take questions if you do have any, or else we can wind up. Yes, thank you.
Interesting topic about the guys who are really interested in cyber security.